Hey there, welcome back to Kindness Stories, the place where real moments of courage and compassion inspire us all to stand up for what's right, and to believe that even in the toughest situations, kindness and strength can shine through. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon so you never miss an incredible story that could change the way you see the world. Now, grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let me tell you about a young girl named Emily who faced down the worst kind of bullies in her high school hallway and showed everyone what real bravery looked like. Emily was just 16 when it happened. She had always been a quiet kid, not exactly shy, but certainly not someone who liked to draw attention to herself. She'd moved to Greenfield High just a year ago, and while she'd managed to make a few good friends, she mostly kept her head down and focused on her classes. Her dad always told her that the way to get through life was to stay true to yourself, work hard, and treat others the way you want to be treated. Emily lived by that rule. She helped her mom around the house, babysat her little brother whenever her parents had to work late, and even volunteered at the local animal shelter every Saturday morning. She was, in every sense of the word, a kind and gentle soul. But like so many high schools across the country, Greenfield High had its share of bullies, and the worst of them were on the football team. It wasn't that every player was cruel or mean. Some of them were good guys, but there was this tight-knit group of seniors who seemed to think the world revolved around them, and that they could do whatever they wanted without consequence. They'd swagger through the halls with their Letterman jackets, barking at freshmen, tripping kids in the cafeteria, mocking teachers behind their backs. You know the type. They thrive on fear, and unfortunately for Emily, she somehow caught their eye. It started small, the way it usually does. She'd find little notes shoved into her locker, nasty things written on scraps of paper that would make her heart race with a mix of anger and dread. Then they'd knock her books out of her hands when they passed her in the hall. She told her best friend Sarah about it, but Sarah said what so many friends say, just ignore them. They'll get bored and move on. So Emily tried. She pretended. She didn't hear the whispers when she walked by, didn't feel the stares burning holes in her back. She kept her eyes forward and her chin up, but that only seemed to fuel them more. The ringleader was a guy named Brett Collins. He was big, even for a football player, and rumor had it he was headed for a Division I scholarship. Brett was the kind of guy teachers gave second chances to, because they didn't want to mess up his future. The principal turned a blind eye. The other students pretended not to notice. That's how bullies get away with it. After all. One rainy Thursday afternoon, everything came to a head. Emily had stayed late to finish up a lab assignment in the science wing. By the time she packed up her backpack and stepped out into the empty hallway, the last bell had rung almost an hour ago. She liked the quiet after school, no shouting, no slamming lockers, just the soft hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. She was halfway to her locker when she heard footsteps behind her, heavy ones. She didn't even have to look to know who it was. She felt her stomach drop. Hey, where are you going so fast? Brett's voice echoed off the walls. Emily turned, forcing herself to stand her ground even though her hands were shaking. Brett wasn't alone. Two of his teammates flanked him like bodyguards. One of them cracked his knuckles. The other just grinned. There was something in Brett's eyes that made Emily's pulse pound in her ears. She'd read about situations like this, how sometimes bullies push things too far just because they can. I'm going home, Emily said, trying to sound calm. Her voice wavered slightly, but she hoped they didn't notice. Get out of my way. Go. You hear that? Brett mocked, looking at his friends. Little Mouse thinks she can tell us what to do. The two guys laughed. It wasn't the kind of laughter you'd hear when someone tells a joke at lunch. It was mean and cold. Brett stepped closer, backing Emily up against the lockers. The metal was cool against her spine. She realized then how alone she was. No teachers. No other kids, just her and these three giants who could do whatever they wanted. Why don't you give us your phone? Brett sneered, holding out his hand. Or maybe you'd rather we search you. Emily's mind raced. She'd always been told to try to talk her way out of situations like this. Be polite. Comply. Keep your head down. But something inside her snapped. Maybe it was the way Brett leaned in so close. She could smell his breath. Maybe it was the way his friends closed in like jackals. Or maybe it was that she could see in their eyes they keep doing this over and over until she broke, and Emily wasn't about to break. Back off, Brett, she said, her voice low now. Steady asterisk. Brett's smile faded. His friends fell. Silent. It was like the air between them shifted. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Brett slammed his hand against the locker next to her head. The bang echoed down the hallway. Emily didn't flinch. That seemed to make him even angrier. He reached out, grabbing her arm, trying to pin her completely. But Emily had been taking self-defense classes at the local community center for months. Her dad had insisted. She rolled her eyes at first, but now every lesson, every repetition, flashed through her mind in crystal clear detail. Asterisk. Before Brett could react, Emily twisted her arm free and brought her knee up in one fluid motion. Hard. The impact landed squarely where it would hurt him the most. There was a sickening sound, followed by Brett's agonized scream. He stumbled backward, hands clutching himself, eyes wide with disbelief and pain. His friends froze, shock etched on their faces. Emily didn't wait. She grabbed her backpack, pushed past the stunned football players, and ran. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst. But she didn't stop until she was outside, the cold rain washing over her, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Asterisk. The aftermath was messy. Brett's parents were furious. They wanted Emily expelled, claiming she'd assaulted their precious son, the star quarterback. But the security cameras told a different story. The footage clearly showed Brett and his buddies cornering Emily. It showed Brett putting his hands on her first, and it showed Emily defending herself with a single, perfectly placed knee strike that would later sideline Brett for the rest of the football season. His scholarship was at risk. Suddenly, the teachers who turned a blind eye were forced to face the truth about what had been happening in their halls. Asterisk. Emily's story spread through the school like wildfire. Some kids whispered that she'd overreacted. Others called her a hero. But Emily didn't care about the gossip. What mattered to her was that for the first time in a long time, she felt safe walking down those hallways. The bullies gave her a wide berth after that. So did a lot of other people who'd once thought of her as the quiet, easy target. Asterisk. Her friends stood by her side. But she learned something even more important, that standing up for yourself isn't about fighting for the sake of fighting. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to be treated like less than you are. Her parents were proud of her, but they were also scared. They sat her down one night, worried about the blowback she might face. But Emily told them that she'd rather face the consequences of fighting back than spend one more day letting someone else make her feel small. Asterisk. Over the next few months, Emily noticed a change in the school. The administration cracked down on the football players. New policies were put in place to protect students from harassment. Teachers started to pay more attention. A couple of the guys who laughed at Brett's jokes in the past came up to Emily and apologized, saying they never realized how far things had gone. Maybe they were just covering themselves. But Emily accepted their apologies anyway. She figured forgiveness was part of the same strength it took to stand up in the first place. Asterisk. One afternoon, long after things had settled down, Emily was at her locker when she heard a soft voice behind her. It was a freshman girl she didn't know well, small, with her hair pulled back and eyes that kept flicking nervously toward the floor. Asterisk. I just wanted to say, thank you, the girl whispered. I saw what you did that day. They used to pick on me too. They don't anymore.